And you might think that if you've made it this far in the recovery, you might be sitting pretty. But let's dig into the state of business owners right now in the country through all this as we continue to hear of some issues on the hiring front. And for more on that, I want to bring on Don McCree, Citizens Vice Chairman and Head of Commercial Banking, joins us right now. And Don, it's something that we haven't heard just from small businesses, but even some of America's largest businesses have been talking about hiring issues. What are you seeing in your discussions as these businesses continue to recover from the pandemic?
Well, Zach, I'd say that the overall backdrop is actually quite good. We're seeing broad recovery across, virtually every sector of the economy. The consumer's got an enormous amount of spendable cash right now, and that will continue with the stimulus payments. So business owners are feeling pretty good about the state of their opportunity. You mentioned PPP, but the financial markets have been highly accommodative over the last year. There's been record securities issuance in both the high grade and the high yield market, record syndicated lending activity. So there's just an enormous amount of liquidity in the system and on companies' balance sheets. There are two constraints we see out there, and we're hearing it pretty much everywhere. One is hiring. As people get vaccinated, come back to work, it's a little tough for people to find employees right now, particularly in some of the service sectors where we had large layoffs through the last year. And then the other challenge that people are having is with supply chains in certain parts of the economy. Goods from Europe and Asia have been delayed over the last year, and maybe you're getting inventories that's 6 months old, or you're just seeing commodities constrained in general. A lot of construction areas are having a tough time getting supplies for construction projects. So I think those will cleanse themselves over the next few months, but putting a little bit of a carburetor on what would be the recovery otherwise.
When you talk about those hiring challenges, how much of that is tied to those stimulus checks that have been out there? You've heard a number of lawmakers who say, look, because there's no real incentive to come back, those workers aren't necessarily coming back. Is that really the full story?
I don't know if that could be one of the drivers. I think there's still in parts of the country basically challenges with how vaccinated some of the population is. So as you get into the younger people, they're not as fully vaccinated as the older people, and those are the employees that would be coming back. I think every week that goes by, you see more vaccination, and I think it's probably a combination of those two things. I think it is temporary, and then remember that in a lot of these sectors, there's a big foreign worker content with people that come particularly for summer jobs from Europe and the like, and that'll stay constrained a little bit also.
Yeah, Donna, I also wonder, if you're a business who made it this far and you might be thinking about, all right, I've been through a lot. This year's been draining. I wonder if now might be the time to start looking for people who might want to buy my business. And interesting to kind of see your update on the M&A front, as a lot of people still expect that to be hot here in 2021. And you look at some of the reasons potentially to take advantage of higher than expected valuations. How do you look at M&A activity as it's shaping up here at this point in the recovery?
Yeah, it's Zach. It's active and getting more active. It's a very powerful trend, particularly in our portfolio of private companies. You've got a lot of owners who the next generation may not want to run the business, and as you said, valuations are quite robust right now. And you also have the benefit of highly liquid financing markets. So if you're a buyer of a company, you've got spendable cash, particularly private equity, where a lot of these transactions are happening. And then you've got very robust liquidity at very attractive interest rates. So even with the 10-year up a smidge over the last few months, it's still very low from an overall historic standpoint. So you've got a lot of ingredients that'll continue to drive M&A. And then if you're beginning to get a little bit of talk of tax reform or tax changes and changes in capital gain tax, a lot of ways to go on that. Nobody knows really where it's going to end, but there's a likelihood that taxes will be higher, and that's spurring sellers that are thinking about selling to move more quickly. And we've seen that accelerate over the last month or two.